Hi, everybody. Happy Monday afternoon, Monday evening. Thank you guys for making time to come to this prepare lecture. I'm Sean. I'm a senior this year. I'm double majoring in chemistry and music on the pre-med track. Lois, do you want to go?
Hi everyone, thanks for coming. I'm Lois. I'm a junior double majoring in biology and Spanish on the pre-med track as well. Want to go, Sarah?
Yeah, sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Sarah. I'm a junior and I'm majoring in NBB and minoring in English on the pre-med track.
Hi, everyone. I'm Louisa. Oops. I'm Louisa. I'm also a third year. I'm on the pre-medical track and I'm a double major in biology and philosophy.
Cool. So the four of us are peer mentors in the pre-health office. And so if y'all have any questions throughout the presentation, feel free to message either any of us or just like to everybody. And I'll be moderating those questions in the chat, and there will be a time for questions specifically at the end. So we're going to pull up the slide deck and get started.
All right, can everyone see my screen?
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Perfect. So our first slide, or I guess this prepare lecture is on timeline, so specifically timeline for classes, like when to take certain classes, as well as gap year versus no gap year, and like kind of like MCU for those of you who are sophomores who've been attending those. But yeah, so we'll get started with intended majors and minors. Y'all have probably been advised through your ECS class and through your various advisors. But you can declare one major and a minor, or two majors through Emory College. On your diploma, it doesn't say what your major or minor is. So it really, take the classes that you enjoy, and most of the time that ends up at a major or minor. And you can declare at the beginning the second semester of your first year, but you have to declare by the end of your sophomore year. And you guys already probably have gone over this information with your advisors, but just to recap, you can bring up to 18 credit hours. 12 of those can be AP or IB credits from high school. And then the additional 6 can be from if you took classes at your community college while in high school. That works as well as all the other international tests that we offer. We as in like the United States or internationally. And if you have any questions about that, reach out to me or your advisor or any of the peer mentors that can help you with that. It can be helpful to, if you have more than 12 AP credit hours or IB credit hours, it can be helpful to sit with an advisor and talk about which ones you want to use for credit and which ones you just want to have as like a completion grade basically on your transcript. And then we have links embedded throughout the slides, and we'll be sending this slide deck out to everybody who attended at the end if you want to click on them eventually. And then after that, we have general education requirements. So as first years, this year, y'all will have taken a freshman seminar and a freshman writing, as well as Health 100, as well as what sophomores now know as PACE and what first year students this year will know as ECS. And then these white squares are GERs that need to be completed by the end of graduation. And a lot of times you can fulfill these with your major and minor classes, so you can kind of double dip. You can also double dip with the race and ethnicity class and the continued writing class. Just a little side note for people who are pursuing medicine or any type of healthcare field. Yes, Emory requires 3 continued writings, but a lot of medical schools or PT schools, etc., ask for at least 2 classes in the English language. So like you could take 3 biology continued writings, but you would still have to take 2 English classes or 2 other like writing classes not in the hard sciences. For that to count for the med school's English requirements.
All right, I'll be going over the next set of information. So this is more specific to like the track that you might pursue in the future. On our pre-health website, we have specific information on each track, but there are unique prerequisites for each program, whether that be pre-med, pre-vet, pre-nursing, etc. And so it's really important if you're interested in any of those paths to kind of just be on the lookout for what things you might need to take. But as always, you can ask me, anyone here, or any of the other peer health mentors or advisors, and they'll be happy to help you kind of just look through and see what you need to do for what you might be interested in. Oh, next. And then summer classes, options for that are transient studies classes. I believe you can take those if you have less than 60 credit hours at Emory, and it can count towards your Emory transcript. And so approved, like or in the past, if you've taken something before coming to Emory, that'll be approved based on the total earned hours of that other institution. And so that's an option for you if you're a freshman or a sophomore. Other options include study abroad. There are plenty of study abroad options. You can reach out to your advisor or your major advisor if you've declared a major at this point, or anyone in the pre-health office, and they'll be happy to help you with that. And then something that I've personally pursued is an online or an in-person class at Emory over the summer. This past summer, I took the physics sequence online, and it's a good way to get some classes out of the way, or maybe focus on something that you might not ordinarily be able to do during the school year. It is more accelerated than a normal class, so that's just something to keep in mind. And also pertaining to summer classes, financial aid might be something that you might want to consider, because they are a little bit, definitely they are expensive. So just like some things to consider, but it's a good way to get something kind of out of the way over the summer, or just like study something that you ordinarily wouldn't have the time to take. And then this is like a plan map. We have these in the peer health office as well, and I received something kind of like this when I was a freshman, but these are a great way to kind of just keep track of what you might need to take as you go through your experience here at Emory. So here's like an example sequence that a lot of people do pursue, just taking the intro chem and intro bio sequences in your first year, and then health pace, your freshman writing requirement, your freshman seminar, and then just another exploratory class. And then you can just use stuff like this to keep track of your GERs and also your potential major requirements, depending on what you want to study. And I think that these are really helpful, because I got one when I was a freshman, and I still use it when it's time to register for classes. So I think just keeping track, and then if you go to the peer health, or go to the pre-health advising office and you ask about one of these, or if you just want to plan out your schedule, a peer mentor can help you, or your advisor can help you kind of get one of these, so that you can keep track of what you need to do as you move along.
Okay, so for extracurriculars, although they aren't like part of an academic plan necessarily tied to Emory, they are a big part of your timeline coming into college and throughout college. There are 4 kind of pillars of like extracurricular that you can focus in, even though like extracurricular can span a wide range of topics. And this is specifically for pre-health. They try to focus on these 4 extracurriculars. So the first one is community service. So getting involved with your community, like the local community around Atlanta, or your community at home when you go back in the summer. And this is mainly because the heart of medicine is service. So when you do apply to a program, they want to make sure that you have a service-oriented mindset. So they want to see that reflected in your extracurriculars, specifically through community service. Another thing that they want to see in your extracurriculars is leadership. So if you're involved in leadership in your extracurriculars, it demonstrates confidence, self-discipline, and people skills. And it gives you a lot to talk about when you're interviewing or in your essays when you're applying to a pre-health program. Same thing with clinical experience. Involving yourself in clinical experience with your extracurriculars helps you understand a physician or because you really don't know want to be a pre-health person in the future in your undergraduate career. So the last sort of critical thinking, this is starred because a lot of students think that it's necessary, meaning it's a mandatory to participate in research to apply to the pre-health program. And that is very much not true. You don't think that research is, if you're not interested in it, there's no like need to involve yourself in it. But it is a lot of things that pre-meds or pre-health students find interesting, which is why a lot of pre-health students do it in your undergraduate career. So you can go to the Blogspot, which is the pre-health blog, in order to find a lot of these extracurriculars. The advisors do so many opportunities on a daily, weekly basis, and literally just contacting some of the people that they outline in these blog posts is a really good way to get involved with unique extracurriculars and those that align with the 4 pillars right here.
All right, so the next section of our presentation is going to be focusing on gap year versus no gap year. The no gap year method is when you just go straight through or straight through from undergraduate straight to medical school. Here's like a typical timeline for how it usually works. You usually take the entrance exam, whether it's the MCAT for pre-meds or DAT if you're interested in dental school, PCAT if you're interested in like doing physical therapy or things related to that, PHA, which is for people who want to do like PA school or physician assistant. So they have a lot of entrance exams depending on what school you want to go to after undergrad. And if you don't want to take a gap year, you usually take this test before the May of your junior year, but the earlier the better, because we just recommend, especially because a lot of these entrance exams are content focused or are focused on the curriculum. When you get it earlier, like done it earlier is like better. The next part of doing like the timeline is the composite letter process. This usually begins during the fall of your junior year, and the composite letter application is due at the end of the winter break of your junior year. This letter just helps, it's like a letter that we put in front of your application when you're sending out to the schools, just detailing what you are as an applicant, how your recommendation letter is, and it really helps like get a leg up in the process. And applications for your graduate school will be due at the beginning of the summer after your junior year. So you'll be done after the summer after your junior year, and your senior year will be full like doing interviews and getting ready for med school or what other graduate school you want to go to. So for gap year, this process is just like shifted a year backwards. So you will not be going straight to if you're taking one gap year, depending on how many that you do, if you're taking a gap year, you will not be going straight through. So the timeline is a little bit different, where you would take your entrance exams before the May of your senior year, but also recommend earlier the better. And your composite letter process will begin the fall of your senior year, and the composite letter application will be due at the end of winter break. And for your applications, it would actually be due at the beginning of the summer after your junior year, so after you graduate. One misconception people usually have is that they think that you'll do your applications after your gap year is over, but it would actually be due before your gap year starts. And if you have any gap year experiences, like wanting to do a job or go study abroad or do anything else, you can talk about that in like your essays or in the interviews that you do for med school or PA school or whatever you do. And here are some advantages for both of these timelines. For taking a gap year, it gives you more time for your extracurricular enhancement, where you can do a lot of different things people do in a gap year. You can work as a scribe, like actually get a job, volunteer. Some people do Teach for America, Fulbright scholarships. Like there's so many opportunities. It can also prevent burnout, because if you don't want to do anything, you can just take a break or like sort of just get away from school for a while. It also helps you experience the real world outside of college, where you can actually talk to people and not have to worry about exams and homework for for a year, and helps to actually be an adult. And it also gives you opportunities to earn money through medical or non-medical jobs. So if you want to like save up for medical school or save up for graduate school, that can help. There are also advantages to not taking a gap year. Even though gap years are becoming a lot more common, I think I heard like the latest statistic is that 55% of medical students take a gap year. No gap year is like the more traditional, quote unquote, traditional method, because most people just go straight through in the past, but it's changing a little bit now. There's also less financial risk because you're able to start your career as a medical professional faster. So if you're really concerned about just wanting to finish it all in one go and just start like being a doctor or dentist whenever you as soon as possible, this could be the best method for you. And it also helps or is more likely to maintain your timeline, and it gives you less potential to lose academic focus. if you know that you're someone who doesn't want to give yourself a break just to get it done faster, this could be a better method for you as well. And if you want more information on gap years, because this is questions that we get a lot as pre-health mentors, last week PHA hosted a panel of students who did or did not take a gap year to learn more about their experiences. So when we send you this the slide deck of all of the slides today, you can click on these and listen to the recordings or the presentation of the people who did or did not take a gap year and see which ones, like, to get more information and see which ones work best for you.
Okay, so I'm just going to be talking about a few other optional things that you can do throughout your time here at Emory and your timeline in general in college. So one thing that people don't really know about is an early assurance program. And this sort of program is a way that you can get into medical school before you actually typically apply, like in your junior or senior year if you're taking a gap year. And these deadlines are usually at the end of your second year or beginning of your junior year. So you can actually apply to these programs early and you get in early, and there's more information on the blog. And I believe there was an event about it recently, maybe yesterday. And there are a couple Emory students that that have been accepted into early assurance programs. And I encourage you to reach out and check in with them if that's something that you're interested in. So this is probably something that you already have heard about or should be on your radar, but registration for next semester is coming up. And so if you're a freshman or a sophomore, your advising week is going to be a little bit later and your registration is going to be a little bit later. But for any juniors and seniors out there, it's coming up very soon, if not next week. So add-drop swap is from November 22nd to December 22nd. But before add-drop swap and before registration, you should stop by the PHA advising office just to get some advice on your classes and your course planning for all 4 years. And that's in person at the PHA office in the B. Jones building, which is across from the Oxford Road building, if you haven't been in. Yeah, so you can meet with a lot of different people for advice on your timeline, for advice on registration, or if you just have questions on anything that we've talked about, you can meet with your pre-health advisor. And if you haven't met with them yet, they are assigned by last name, and you can go on the website to find out your specific advisor. You also should be assigned a pre-major advisor if you haven't declared a major yet, and a major advisor if you have declared a major. You can meet with them, you can set up an appointment, and they will be more than happy to meet. There are also a lot of other peer mentors, not just us four, and they're always available to help you if you schedule an appointment through our website, or you can also walk into the office and talk to them. We have a bunch of upcoming events that help that are open for students like you. There's a lot of more of these lecture series. There's one on volunteering, clinical leadership opportunities, and that'll go more into the extracurriculars that we mentioned previously, talking about what are the actual opportunities and how to get involved in them. There's also summer opportunities, what to do in the summer, and research. And then these are a few other of the events. You can all sign up for these on the PHA website, and there are also going to be more coming up other than just these. Yeah, now we're going to open it up for questions. If you have any, you can either just unmute yourself or you can type in the chat.
I think you're muted, Sean.
Good, thank you. I love talking to myself. Does somebody want to take this? Does someone want to take Maya's question?
I can take this one. I took Calc 111. It depends on what major you're doing. You said I heard some medical schools want it, but not all. It depends on what major you like or interested in doing. For biology and for a lot of the hard science majors, we recommend it's like a major requirement. But it depends on if you like. Some medical schools do want it, so taking it couldn't hurt because it does increase your chances of like widening your pool of like what schools you want to apply to. But if you just don't like math, or you just don't want to take it, that you can also take that into consideration as well. I took it and it wasn't horrible, it wasn't great, but it was fine.
I got a question via direct message, but I think it's helpful for everyone. So can you go back to the GER slide real quick for me, Lois, please? Thank you. They're asking if the Area 7 requirements, so the HAP and HAL, if it has to be 2 HAP and 2 HAL, or if it can be 1 HAP and or 3 HAL, or like mixing up those courses. Unfortunately not is the simple answer, but some of those courses might have both tags. So it might be like a music class that has both an HAP and an HAL tag, which like you wouldn't be able to double dip, for example, the continued writing or the race and ethnicity class. But like, I don't know if that completely answers your question, but essentially you do have to take 2 classes with the HAP tag and 2 classes with the HAL tag, even though some classes might have both tags. I hope that helps. And then I got another question. If I want to get involved in research, do I just email a professor, or is there a better approach? So there are many approaches to getting involved in research. And we actually have a research workshop, I think next week. But I guess kind of a preview, there's obviously like, yes, we can cold email professors, but I would suggest kind of going through your professors who you already know. So for example, like, say you're in a class now and you're in an anthro class and you really enjoy the subject, you can go to the professor and ask like, hey, I'm interested in anthro research. Do you have any colleagues who would be looking ready, or like who would be willing to accept undergrads, and kind of using that foot in the door method. So I think it's more comfortable to email someone being like, hey, I heard from Dr. So-and-so, I'm in their class and they referred me to you, rather than just being like, I found your email on some random website, like, hi, be my friend. So there's kind of like that foot in the door technique. I got involved in my lab via Handshake. So it's a work study job, but there are plenty of research assistant jobs on Handshake that are not work studies specifically. So you can get involved that way. There's the SIRE program. I'm not a part of SIRE, but if any of our other peer mentors are and want to talk on it, or have any other research experience they want to share, go ahead.
Yeah, I got my research job through code emailing as well. And I think it's also helpful to sort of go through your major department, because the biology major like email listserv sent out like a list of researchers who were interested in undergraduates like a year or 2 ago, and that was really helpful to like get a foot in the door. And also being able to, like Sean said, like using your networking resources, people that you may know who, or even asking your friends like how do they get involved in their labs, that could help as well. And I think you even have like undergraduate research program like office, like in the undergraduate research ambassadors, who can give you personalized tips about how to get involved in research as well.
I was going to piggyback off what Lois said about reaching out to that undergraduate research programs office. One of my friends is a research ambassador, and he always tells me, he's like, I wish people booked my appointments. So if you guys book appointments with research ambassadors, like that's their job. They're there to help you get research, and like she said, give you personalized attention related to that. So if you're open to it, I highly encourage making an appointment with them.
I see a bunch of questions popping up in the chat, but I'm gonna just go in order in my direct messages as well. So we had a question about AP credits counting towards prereqs. That's a great question. Usually, yes. I'm not completely sure what specifically you're asking about, but say, for example, you took AP Chem, that does count as a prereq, but most schools want to see 4 semesters of Chem anyway. So you would have to, like, even if you skipped 150, you would have to take another like subsequent like upper level chem class, which like most people who aren't chem majors are like, why might as well just take gen chem again. And also like taking it again is a good refresher. Same goes for physics. So if you use your AP physics credit, you can skip into 142. However, you would have to take another semester of any upper level physics, which is not an issue because the physics department does offer like physics for non-majors or physics for like sciences and like medicine and all of that. So there are definitely options, but I think that depends on your interests as well as like what you think you can handle slash, all of that. If you have specifics about that question, person who sent that to me, send me another follow-up. And then John's question, what are some schools that I can get college credits from in this, get college credits from in the summer outside of Emory? Another peer mentor want to answer that?
I'm not sure the specifics, but I know that if you go into the summer credit, you can either email the people that, if you have like a specific school that you want to check, you can email the program, the summer credit program through Emory, like the Emory summer credit program to find out. But I'm pretty sure there's also a list of schools that do accept, that Emory does accept credit from. But just to be sure, I would email the program.
A little asterisk to that, that only counts the summer after your freshman year. So you can't, you can take a class at like, for example, UGA over the summer during your junior year, but that wouldn't like count on your transcript. That would just count as like, oh, I took this course, but the grade wouldn't count for anything. You couldn't really submit it to med schools. So that's, I think, transient study is what Emory calls it. But that only happens the summer after your freshman year. So definitely use those resources that Louisa just shared.
Yes, I did transient study after my freshman year, and I just decided to go to a school that was like close to where I lived because it was more convenient. So definitely checking like schools that are close to like your area, because that could just be the easiest way to go.
I got a quick question about the English requirements. So they asked if the AP English credit that we brought in from high school counts as one of the English classes. Yes, it does, because that AP Lang credit, I think AP Lang or AP Lit counts for the first year writing, and that first year writing counts as an English, quote unquote, English class. And yes, it's very confusing. But Emory does kind of give the med schools a little preface of like, hey, like this is our liberal arts kind of curriculum, and so these writing classes should be like counting as English classes. So as long as you fulfill like those two, either continued writings or two classes with like the ENG prefix, you should be covered. Obviously, definitely look into the specific schools you're applying to, but that's not something you have to worry about until you are starting to apply. So don't stress about that right now.
I was also going to add, if you take AP Lang and AP Lit in high school, they only count one of those towards the first year writing requirement. So like they'll take either one. That's just like something to add on.
And then Grace asked, where can we find who our pre-major advisor is? That is, I think, listed in a couple places. It's on your Opus and it's also in College Connect. Also, if one of our peer mentors can find the link and drop it in the chat of like so our advisors are split based on last name. And there's a link that one of us will eventually send in the chat to you so you can figure out who that is. Also, if you Google pre-health appointment advising Emory, it'll auto-generate basically based on your Emory net ID and all that.
There's a lot of advisors at Emory. There's the LUE advisor, and then the pre-health advisor, and then the pre-major advisor. I think this I'm not sure which person which advisor you're talking about, but the pre-major advisor is the one you have before you declare your major, and then once you declare a major, you have like your own personalized advisor for your specific major. And then the pre-health advisor, Anil, Kim, or Hugh, they're assigned by last name. And then there's also your LUE advisor through the Office of Undergraduate Education, and they're assigned by last name as well. So you have a lot of resources.
Did any of the other peer mentors get direct questions that would be helpful for the group. Perfect. Any other questions from y'all? Thank you for coming on a Monday night. Alrighty.
Tuesday. Not to.
Oh, is it Tuesday? I literally said Monday like 3 times and then embarrassing. Anyway, thanks, bestie. Yes, Isabel, we will be sending out slides and the recording to people who came. And the recording will probably be posted on YouTube.
All right, thanks for coming, you guys. We'll be here for a while if anyone has more questions.
I have a question, and I don't know, you were mentioning something about like the Math 111, the calc course. So I saw on like the pre-med requisites that a few med schools would require Math 111. I used my AP credit for that, but would you recommend still like taking that course?
Honestly, I'd say no, you're fine. Unless you're going into like MD, PhD, they probably want to see that just for the sake of like research, or if you're a physics major, then you probably should take it just for knowledge. But like truly not necessary. At least that's my take on it. I don't know if another peer mentor has a different opinion.
Yeah, I use my AP credit for it and I haven't taken it and I'm planning on not taking it. So
Yeah, I definitely agree. If I had an AP credit, I would have used that.
Okay, thank you so much.
Any other questions?
Hi, I kicked John out. He's in the waiting room. Thank you guys. How did that go?
Wait, let's stop the recording as well.